I bought a crab that was meant to be a sacrifice.
Oh, yay! I'm a sacrifice!
He was supposed to help me cycle my tank, and when that was done, was either going to be eaten by whatever I put inside or eaten by my mate to Shrimp Kaiju. But you guys convinced me he was worth keeping, and since doing so, I have fell in love. Look at his little arms stick out of the sand whenever I try to give him his algae wafers. How can you not love him? I've also never had a comment section agree on a name so much, so I obviously had to name him Carlos. And little did I know this Carlos's impact because he was our Carlos Prime. I asked you guys what else should go into the tank. We could add a lionfish, a frogfish, something super cool and unique. And while you guys argued about what else should go in there, one thing was not disputed, which was more Carloses. So I started buying more, and they were named Carlos, 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 and Carlos. As of making this video, we are currently at 6 Carloses, and I think I could fit around 20 into this tank. We had 7, but we lost Carlos, rest in peace. He was like a father to me. And we have 2 Carloses away on a secret mission in 2 of my other tanks to get rid of my algae problem. But we still have our Carlos Prime. Now, a king like Carlos needs a much better home than this. It's not bad, it's just a little plain. They basically spend all of their time in the sand, but maybe if I add some more things into the tank, they will go out and explore. Or not. We have to go out and find the right decorations for our Carloses. Something that will make the tank feel natural and at home. And ideally some decorations that are actually functional as well and not just look pretty. I want to create for them a tiny ecosystem. So through some research, I found the right things. This tank would look great with some types of macroalgae. But not only will it look nice, macroalgae is basically some underwater plants that will help cycle the tank and keep it nice and clean. Because the Carloses are dirty boys. But it would also provide an extra food source for our Carloses since they like to eat algae. And if they eat all the algae, that's no problem because I'll just go buy some more. The next thing I wanted to find were a couple sponges. Yes, we are adding SpongeBob into the Carlos tank. There are many different kinds of sponges, but I could kind of make any of them work, so I won't be too picky on which ones I choose. The goal with these is mostly decoration, but the Carloses could pick on it if they want to. But where am I supposed to find all of these things? The only place I could find this stuff is by searching on the deep, dark web. Just kidding, I ordered it all through my local fish store and they had everything that I needed. Here's what we got. 2 different clumps of macroalgae. This first one is called Kato and is a beautiful green color. It's easy to keep and will give the tank a nice natural look. Putting it in the tank was difficult because it wanted to move around, but I got it to stay in one spot eventually by wedging it with some rock. I had to be careful moving the rocks around because I didn't want to squish any Carloses. While this was an improvement, it didn't feel like enough. I also bought this deep red macroalgae called Pom Pom, also an easy one to keep and very natural looking. Then I bought a couple red tree sponges. These are very tricky to keep and you have to be extra careful putting them in the tank. Sponges need constant food in order to stay alive, and even if a little bit of them touches the air, it will ultimately end up slowly killing them. I'm not too sure how SpongeBob made it out of Sandy's house alive. They constantly need a flow of water for oxygen and filter feeding, so any air pocket can disrupt that. To put them in, we need to open the bag underwater and slowly take it out. I think we did it. Nice. These will give our Carloses another place to walk and give the tank a nice natural look. I believe the Carloses will slowly pick on these as well, just like the macroalgae, but it's the same thing. If I need more, I'll just buy more. Now I have tons of extra live rock lying around, and I think the tank could use another one. I picked this rock because it was the best one I had, and I wanted it to create a little bit of an overhang inside the tank. The reason for that is because it'll create a nice hiding spot for a certain animal that I'm going to buy to watch over our Carlos army. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. But now the tank is missing something absolutely crucial. It wouldn't be complete without this. Now it's perfect. This is what our tank looked like before, and this is the after. I think it's a great improvement, but I'm also not the opinion that matters. What do the Carloses think of it? They spend the most of their time in the sand anyway, so will they even notice or care? Well, only a couple days later, I noticed 2 very interesting things. I noticed that one Carlos made his way up the rock and was leaning on the red tree sponge. I couldn't really tell if he was eating it, but if he was, that's a great sign, and even if he wasn't, at least he looked like he was checking it out. Then I noticed that the Kato algae drifted to the back of the tank. I figured it got dislodged from the rock, but then I wasn't so sure because there was a Carlos underneath it. I thought he may have just been hiding, but it looked like he was also eating it. Which is great because that means outside of the wafers that they know I give them, they now recognize another food source. A couple days later, after I moved the Kato back, I noticed it and the Pom Pom algae moved across the tank. I'm not sure who did it, but Carlos is looking a little suspicious. So I had to move it back to a place I wanted it to be. I already argue about these things with a shrimp. I'm not going to start with crab. Then I saw that the algae I bought came with a bunch of little friends. It's hard to get on video, but they were covered with little bugs called copepods. Copepods are great for a reef tank because they'll eat algae in hard to reach places, as well as provide an extra food source to many animals. They were a welcomed guest for sure. And about 6 or 7 days later, the Carloses still mostly stay in the sand, but I see them exploring their macroalgae and sponges pretty often. Here's me petting a Carlos because I think he deserves it. I'm excited to add more friends to the tank and bring the Carloses that are away on a mission back into their new homes. I think they're gonna love the new renovations. Subscribe to keep up with the Carlos army.